to Quilt and Code. We are celebrating our inner childhood this month and going full mini. I am pretending to be a fairy and embracing all of the dress up that I can. So I'm so happy you've joined us. The purpose of this live is to recap our Mastering the Minis course for this week and to give you some tips for next week. And so we have been exploring this whole May mini month, a mini quilt that we are creating together. All these videos are on our website at www.quiltandcode.com, and once you pull up that front page, if you'll just follow us on the May mini month, you will be updated with the videos that are coming out Monday through Thursday. And on Fridays, we are here to answer any questions or recap. I am putting patterns up with those blocks, and sure enough, while I was doing one of the patterns this week, that would be this pattern, which is the disappearing disappearing pinwheel. So we have done the pinwheel, and we have done a pinwheel with extra squares this week, and then we also have done a disappearing pinwheel. And I just wanted to bring out something that I discovered just this morning, and maybe it wasn't that I discovered it just this morning, but I wanted to make sure that I brought it to your attention. I tell you in the video to use a scant 1/4 inch all the way around your pinwheel, your squares. So when you start, I should have done this all together. When you start, you put 2 squares together, you stitch all the way around the squares, and then you cut them diagonally in order to create your original pinwheel, which looks like this. So you will end up with 4 squares. You will then stitch them together in a pinwheel formation. Okay. Now, to create that disappearing pinwheel, you then cut in 1 1/3 inch from each side. And so I just turn my thing, and I literally, when I'm doing this, and you can see it in the video, I go from the sides. I do not try and go in. I cut here and then go in here like that. One, it'll cause all sorts of issues. So when I cut, I go my 1 3/8, cut, turn, 1 3/8, cut, turn, 1 3/8, cut, turn, and so that I end up with my 9 patch. And I have got my pattern that goes along with this that literally will be uploaded as soon as we are done here. Lainey just couldn't do it because I was getting ready for this. He will upload that next to the disappearing 9 patch, and you will see everything and have the measurements to go with it. All of that is free for you. So once we got there, okay, I had used a scant 1/4 inch the whole time. No problems, right? Okay. I got there, and then I went and got all gung-ho, put the sucker together, and went to square it, realized I had not changed my 1/4 inch or measured or done anything to make sure that things were on the up and up. And so what really needed to happen was that I needed to go to a regular 1/4 inch when I did this. So guess what happens? I get to teach you how to rip because, I'm ripping it out. I am not wasting a square. If I were to trim this down, what would happen is that I would lose my 1/4 inch all the way around, and I don't want that to happen. And so that would make it so that my brother, who is the points pirate, would absolutely go nuts over my quilt because my points don't match. And while I consider myself an instant gratification quilter, I too would realize that just isn't going to fly. And so I have made sure in this pattern to say, stop where you're at. Make sure that these seams are giving you a 4-inch thing. And I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay, so I am going to rip. Now, the way I rip is I go every 3 or 4 stitches, and I use Aurifil thread. What I didn't realize when I started using Aurifil thread was that the reason why I would love it so much is that it rips so easily. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So I go every 3 or 4 stitches, And then I go to the other side and pull up, and it just pulls right out. So I can literally, now I'm done. All right, so I have one of my 9 patches here. Look at that. I wasn't even good about that. This was called laziness, people. Not instant gratification. There is a difference. That was called, I need to get this up on the website, and my husband's breathing down my neck, so I'd better do this as quickly as possible. And now I'm paying for it. Okay, now, when I measure this, if I had measured like I have been telling you guys to do all month long, I would have recognized right away that, I mean, this sucker is huge. It is, wait a minute, let me go from the 1. It is 1 1/4 inches wide. So I need to take off a good 1/8 of an inch. And so I need to move my needle over. Now, the nice thing is that I don't need to rip these seams. I just need to move them over. And so there's no ripping involved here. I just need to add a little stitch here. And had I done my measuring, this wouldn't have happened. Okay, so I'm going to simply make these seams be just a little bit longer or a little bit wider. And from then on, everything's gonna be great. So now when I measure, let's find out what happens. Hopefully, nope, these need to be on the inside. The other thing about this 9 patch is that this is gonna press to the inside because there is so much bulk in that pinwheel. And so these are gonna press to the inside. And so there we go. Don't make my mistake. Take your time. And if you're making a gazillion of these, then you really want to make sure that the first one is right. So make sure that this guy measures 4 inches, and then you'll be good from there. And see? How long did that take me? If I'd have done it right, I wouldn't be ripping. So what I'll do now is I'll rip out this seam, and then I'll make these, I'll just shorten those seams, and then I'll put my little 9 patch back together. And lo and behold, when I go to square this guy, he will be perfect. And so just trust me, it's the 1/4 of an inch. Sometimes it needs to be a little bit larger, and sometimes it needs to be scant. The scant gives you the room to make it larger without ripping. I don't want to rip. The last thing I want to do is rip, even though I'm very good at it. All right, so this week we're moving into a lot of flying geese, and I mean a lot. 16 is what I did for the quilt that I'm doing the pattern for, and so, but I love them. And so the cool thing about the flying geese is that I am using the Flying Geese No Math Ruler by Lazy Girl Designs. Now, I'm a big proponent of not buying things you don't need. If you're only going to do flying geese for this project, I will give you the measurements in the pattern of the squares, but I highly recommend if you have any desire to do more than 1 flying geese, this is so cool because I don't have to measure at all. I don't have to do numbers at all. I don't need to worry about 16ths. I just do what the ruler says, stitch away, and I'm good. So, for example, I already cut these out because I told you last week I was getting kind of nervous if I had enough fabric for everything that I wanted to do. I'm still doing great. I don't know if you can see the bucket I am still doing great. Even with, like I told you, I was trying to redo all my blocks just to make sure everything was right on your patterns. And I'm doing great. I still have plenty of fabric. I'm going to have to come up with something else, little squares or something. All right, cool. So I could go even littler, guys. This is the cool thing about this, is that I am using B on my flying geese ruler. And so this 1x2 set is telling me what my geese are going to end up as 1x2 geese. Okay. That is not telling me the measurements here. Okay. I will give you the measurements that I am using so that if you don't want to buy the ruler yet, I understand. Okay. And then the same thing down here. You're just using B. There is no measurement. You don't have to worry about any type of measurements. You need 4 little ones for every big one. Once you are done cutting out your squares, you've got the 1 big square, the 4 little squares, then you want to take your heat erase marker or whatever marker pen you like to use for marking fabric. If it's chalk, if it's erasable in the air, that's great. You always want to make sure you're checking on that fabric to make sure it's going to not leave a mark. Since this is a cut line, doesn't matter as much. You could actually use a pencil on this if this isn't going to show up. Hopefully this will show up well. I haven't used this pen all week, so sometimes it takes a couple of swipes to get the pen to show up on the fabric. So I am going diagonally on each one of my little squares. And then, whoopsie, isn't that nice that it's heat erase? I made a mistake. Nothing new. All right, so now I'm going to take right sides together and I'm going to place these squares just like this. You can see where I made a mistake on this one. And I'm lining up that line. And now I'm going to do a scant 1/4 of an inch on either side of that line. And as you guys know, I use, or you don't, if you're joining us for the very first time, welcome. I'm able to, on my machine, move my needle. And that is how I get my 1/4 of an inches. That way I can move that 1/4 of an inch as I need it, because that's what's necessary in these minis. You've got to play with that 1/4 inch until you get it right. And that is not necessarily just a mini thing. That is a quilting thing. There are some times when I will come to my machine and I will sit here and I will stitch and I'll be like, that is not a 1/4 of an inch today. It just depends on what kind of mood you're in, what kind of lighting you have. Your 1/4 inch is not necessarily always the same. And so keep that in mind. I don't like 1/4 inch feet. I think it doesn't give me the ability to move things around. It also doesn't allow me to have the both feed dogs underneath my fabric, feeding my fabric at all times. And so sometimes my fabric will shift. So this is my technique. You could also use tape down here if you're needing to. Absolutely. All right. So I have my line. I am going to stitch a nice scant 1/4 of an inch on either side of that line. My line is a cut line today. It is not a sew line today. It is a cut line. So I am going on either side of that line. Get out there. I sort of shifted a little bit. Okay, so I have done the one side. Now I'm going to come over here and do the other side. Woo! That mistaken line is just playing havoc with me. Yeah. This line is like, where are we? What are we supposed to be cutting and sewing? I think it's okay. All right. If not, guess what? I'll be doing it over again. Okay, so now I am going to cut diagonally on my cut line. That's telling me that perhaps, Allison, you should have erased it and done it again to begin with. With every one of these, I'm going to get 4 flying geese. And so this is the point in time when this becomes like the cat or the heart or the, and you're like, where am I going? Am I doing this wrong? And so this is what you come up with. You come up with 2 of these guys. And sure enough, I think every time I look at it, how in the world am I going to get flying geese out of this? So whoever came up with this method was pretty genius. Okay, so now we're going to take this and put it right there on the diagonal, lining up the edges, and we're going to do that with both of them. Again, this is my sew line. It is not my cut line. I mean, this is my cut line, not my sew line. Boy, I noticed in one of my videos, guys, that I told you that I was, look at, we just did the triangle and it was a square. I need to go back to kindergarten. So again, I'm sewing on either side of the line. With this, I can chain piece. Bring the next one right in here. I know it's hard to hear me talk when the sewing machine's going. I don't know what those microphones pick up, but it's a lot.
Yeah, I can't post-edit you on the live.
What?
I can't post-edit you on the live and edit out the sewing machine.
I know! I'm trying to be careful. All right, so now I get to cut on that cut line again. And lo and behold, I now have 4 geese. Woohoo! So you can see how I got addicted very, very quickly. These come out so quickly. And it's just become such a blast to make them. Which is good because I'm making 16 for the sides. And then you're using them elsewhere in the quilt. So you've got several blocks this week that are using flying geese on the outsides or, you know, that type of thing. But these particular are going in a row like that. I just do a whole bunch of different colors and then mix them all up. And so now I am going to show you how to square them because that is not something I believe that I reiterated last week on the video. And the tricky thing is squaring these babies because they have to get squared down to 2 1/4 by 1 3/8. So the way I did this was I started. This is the ruler, the Creative Grids 8.5 by 4.5 ruler, and I don't live without this one. This one I use constantly. In fact, we're fighting over it in the store. We have 3 of them in the store downstairs, and we're constantly fighting over where this one is. And one is continually lost because it's gotten buried under somebody's project. And so really we only have 2 in the store because one is always lost. And as soon as you find that one, well, you know, it's lost again. So the first thing I do is on this ruler, I have these cross sections. And so I start, and if you don't have this ruler, it's fine. Just use any ruler that has a 1/4 inch and line up your point here, right there. And you want to make sure you have a 1/4 inch there so that when you go and put this into your project, that you have plenty of room here to make sure that your point's going to line up and you won't cut your point off. So that's the most important part right there. So I start there by lining and hey, this thing has it lined up right there and it's just perfect. I don't know if you can see it it's sort of dark fabric. I should have used lighter fabric. And so the first thing I'm going to do is cut this down. So now I know that this side is right and that this side is going to give me my 1/4 inch point no matter what I do. Well, now I have a straight edge with which I can do my 1 3/8. It's amazing how many 1 3/8 I have used in this project. And so I can see it now right on my ruler. If you're having problems seeing that, use some tape. Get some tape over here just to say, okay, you know, even if you just put a little sliver of tape with one of those markings, it will tell you then immediately when you go to tape, oh, yeah. That's where my 1 3/8 is. Then you don't have to think about it.
Sue Ellen says hi.
Hey, Sue Ellen. How you feeling? I know I need to get you pictures. I promised last week, and I will get you pictures. So now I've got my 1 3/8. So that's the next thing I'm going to cut. Go ahead and get my 1 3/8. Okay, so now I have my 1 3/8. And I'll bet you anything I'm really, really close to my 2 1/4 as it is because I'm awfully close to the edge here. And so if I look at this, ooh, I'm at 2 1/2. I've done something wrong. Of course, on live television. That lined up. That lined up.
Sue Ellen says she's improving a little.
Good. Hopefully you'll be back to sewing in no time. Like real sewing and not just binding. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to line up 1 1/8 on each side. And 1 1/8 on this side. And everything is going to be perfect. So by what I mean by 1 1/8 is that I have a 1 1/8 inch mark right there. And so I'm using that to line up with my centerpiece and everything's going to be perfect. So when I go to sew the next one, everything will be fine. It will bring it in that 1/4 inch and everything will be fine. I'm going to do this again. Okay, so we're going to square again. Start with making sure you've got that 1/4 inch here at your tip. This ruler, awesome for that because it has your 45-degree angles coming from each end of the ruler. So that's the first thing you're going to do. So make sure that you have your 1/4 inch. Then you're going to turn it over, okay? Now you have a straight line, right? A straight edge. So you're going to go to your 1 3/8. So here's my 1 3/8. Now I'm going to go to my bottom, square my bottom. Now I have 1 3/8. Now I am going to go to 1 1/8 because I need it as 2 1/4 finished. So let me see if I can find an easier way to show that to you because it's not showing up that way. Okay, so nope, can't do it that side. I'm like, where is it that I can show you that it's going to come up? Because that 3 1/2 is getting in the way. Oh, here it is. Okay, good. Okay, so here you can see that it's 1 1/8 right on the tip. Oh, I shifted. Happens. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, although now I have multiple places I can line up. I can line up, I'm going to move this in closer because I keep coming toward me. So now I can line up at my 2 1/4. Okay, I'm moving up because you can't see that. I am lining up at the 2 1/4. I can also line up at the 1 1/8 and I can line up vertically. I mean, like triple whammy. Woo! And then you're perfect. Aren't those awesome? They're so much fun. I mean, this looks like it's taking forever, but that's just because I'm going through it with you. And once you get going, it's like you whip them all out in no time. And you know I'm a big, huge proponent of squaring big time all the time, every time, measure all the time. If I were to go and try and sew these guys into my project, everything's going to get all out of whack and wonky. So I'm giving you the measurements for a reason. Use them. Don't be like me in the beginning of this video and just get sewing and forget that you need to make sure you're sewing the right length. So these are coming in. They will be in several like blocks this week. I don't have all my blocks up here right now. They're on the design wall, but they'll be in blocks like this. They'll be in blocks like, let's see, what else do I have here? That's a big, huge one. You can tell this is like my study. And then this one is the one I've got 16 of them around the quilt. And so, but I did it a little differently in that, and you can tell I was still new at squaring everything, because look at that tip. And so I got to that tip and I was like, what in the world? I need to make sure I have my 1/4 inch at the tip. That's why I start at the tip now. Sometimes these mistakes are a good thing to have. I am using several different colors for these and flying geese. And so I'm mixing them all up and it looks fantastic. And then on the side is going cream instead of the color, because I don't know what I'm trying to do, but it's going to look awesome. And that's what will happen next Friday, if you join me, is that you will actually see the startings of the finished product, because Laney and I have got to video that yet. And so Laney's like, we have a video day next week? Okay. So yeah, we're going to get that whole, and then that way the following week, you guys have all you need to be able to finish the project should you decide to. And, or just see where it's going. I can't wait to see where it's going. I kind of know where it's going, but not quite. And then the other thing we're doing next week is we're doing the very first nightcap on Thursday night. And we're going to recap what we've done for the month besides the mini month. We're going to show you some new fabrics we've gotten in. Will is found a new brewery, not new brewery. It's a new,
basically a bar
here in Yancey County in Burnsville. And so they have eclectic drinks from all over the place. So he is going to surprise me with, I don't know, last night it was, they were raving about this key lime pie cider that they have. And so they were raving about that. And so I can't wait to find out what he is going to bring me. And then and they have non-alcoholic as well. So they have it in alcohol and then they have it in non-alcoholic as well. So if you want to join us for a nightcap, it doesn't have to be alcohol. And we will talk about what's coming. We want to know what you guys are looking for. Next month, we have some new YouTubes coming out, and we're really excited about that. So we will share with you next Thursday what those are going to be. And just in general, have a great evening of fun and laughs and that type of thing. So, yeah, join us next Thursday, and then next Friday, I'll give you a hint as to what's coming next. Go over what we've done this week. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to email us at info@quiltandco.com. Be glad to answer anything if you are finding anything wrong. Like, when I call a square a triangle, feel free. We're new at trying to edit and figure this stuff out. And so we will fix that. I don't know how, but Laney's going to help me fix that. Maybe not today, because he's like, I still haven't done the videos for next week. So you do have Monday done? You don't have? Okay, that's okay. We're going to have a busy weekend this weekend. And thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, check us out at quiltandco.com. And if you have any questions, let us know. Have a great mini month. Bye, y'all.